Hey Dan, what was your reaction when you heard President Trump had done a 180 on the House vote on Epstein? What was your like stream of consciousness reaction?
One of the few times in his presidency where events are controlling him and he's not controlling events.
Sean, were you surprised that the president did a 180 on that thing?
No, we talked about this last week. The votes continue to get higher and higher, and it was inevitable. And the idea was be on the right side of the vote.
All
I'm
right, so
excited to
yeah,
see him.
yeah,
He would call for the Senate to, call for Thune to do this. And oh, by the way, he
yeah.
could do this if he wanted to, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's of course we'll get into the whole thing because it's a little unorthodox to release FBI documents and grand jury material. So we'll talk about what
Not in this
happens next.
administration.
What happens next after the president's dramatic 180? Thank you for joining. We have plenty of topics to talk to you about, not just Jeffrey Epstein, but we'll start there in a moment. This is two-way, the morning meeting. Welcome in. Sean, Dan, and I will walk you through the day in the style of the Network News Division's morning meetings, where we'll take you through the day, being very forward-looking about what we think will happen next. And then, of course, we'd welcome your comments, questions. What we don't welcome is your smack in the chat. Please join Marjorie Taylor Greene in calling for national peace, love, and understanding and presumption of grace to all. Let's all just get along. We will, Professor Kenny will be leading us all in a rousing rendition of Kumbaya about halfway through the program, just to level set. Thank you for being here. If you're here and you've never raised your hand, today's the day to do it, but it's not the day to put smack in the chat, either here on the two-way platform or on X, or especially on YouTube, where the biggest smackers amongst the community like to go to just smack, 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 smack. All right, so in a moment, we'll talk Epstein, we'll talk Marjorie Taylor Greene, affordability, Maduro, MBS, Mamdani, Indiana, Tucker, Fuentes, Cruz, Newsom. Lots of topics.
10 topics.
Stand by for that. Dan's not wearing fairway and green, but Sean is. Sean,
Always.
today? What do you got on today?
I got the quarter zip with the
Yeah.
morning meeting logo on the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
handsome.
Sorry.
Yeah, I got the what do you call this? Merino
Vest.
wool. Merino wool
Is that a
vest.
vest or is that a quarter? Like I know
It's
they've got one where they just go, it's like halfway down.
It's a quarter zip vest.
Yeah, it's
And
great for golf. You
merino
protect
wool.
your chest when that wind's coming
Great for
across on
golf.
the ninth.
I wear it for parcheesi. I wear it for also for backgammon. Anyway, two opportunities to purchase Fairway and Green products, either with our logos and catchphrases or just plain unadorned. One, you can just go to the website, twoway.tv/fairway. Use the promo code elections25, 25% off. But if you're looking to buy in bulk, quality products, family, employees, customers, clients, and you're looking to do your holiday shopping, you'll see in the chat right now, send an email to sales2way@summitgolfbrands.com and just tell them you're interested in buying a bunch of gifts for folks. They'll make it easy. Sales2way@summitgolfbrands.com. Get your holiday shopping done now. Another way to get your holiday shopping done is with our friends at Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth also offering you an extraordinary discount because you're a member of the two-way community. 40% off Cozy Earth products. Go to cozyearth.com, promo code 2WMM, 2WMM for 40% off. Black Friday continues. Every day is Black Friday. If you're a member of the two-way community, go to cozyearth.com. Get the bamboo pajama set, the bubble cuddle blanket, the towels, which continue to star in the Spicer and Halperin households. Dan, you have the towels yet or still no?
No, we
Not
got
yet.
sheets,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
bubble. Yeah, bubble
Yeah.
blanket was a big hit last night
Yeah.
here. It was very cold in New York.
Yeah, it was cold last night. Anyway, you can wrap the ones you love in luxury with Cozy Earth right now by going to cozyearth.com, promo code two-way. Oh, no, sorry. Promo code 2WMM, 2WMM for an amazing 40% off. Get those savings now. This deal will not last forever. So again, go to cozyearth.com, promo code 2WMM. All right, Dan, you teed this up, so you go. What's John Thune going to do? Let's skip over an overwhelming House vote. Will John Thune take this up? There are very few Republican senators on the record in favor of it, as best I can tell. The gentleman from Missouri is an exception because he's often an exception. But what do you expect happens now in the Senate once the House passes this?
Well, I think it's interesting because we all assumed that Trump did not want it out. Therefore, if he lost the House, he would go to the Senate and try to get it buried. But if he's calling for it to be released, now the problem is, what do Republicans like? Most of your base wants it out. So I now think maybe it will come out. I think maybe the Senate will vote for it eventually. They'll
Sean,
put it on something.
Yeah. So Sean Dan says eventually, but will Thune dick around and kind of try to get a sense of things, or will he just instantly call for, say there's going to be a vote?
So if I were John Thune, I would take the bird in the hand and just say, if Mr. President,
Yeah.
since you gave me the green light, I am announcing that as soon as this passes, I mean, you might as well go.
Well, but you
because
sure the president wants that? He didn't mention this. He didn't. I'm serious. It's possible that he thinks he can bottle it up in the Senate.
Well,
right?
that's the issue. They just if he's got to figure out where he stands right away.
Yeah.
Because he's either got to bury this thing and then that's it, but he can't go back and forth a little because his members are going to want to know know how to message this.
Gonna
I
be
mean, what's
interesting
just
to
so
see.
bizarre is like you're literally twisting arms of individual members, threatening them with primaries, calling people in the Situation Room, and then you're like, we should vote for it. We have nothing to hide. Let it out.
That's why we call it a
But I
180.
got to tell you though, here's the thing. I always in the back of my mind. Remember who controls the release, right? DOJ is going to determine what gets out. And if I
they
were
could redact
Democrats
it.
right now, I'd be very, very worried about who's on that list
Yeah.
and what's about to come
Yeah.
And
out.
only one
There-
president, Sean.
People have asked how much is there? There's a lot. The documents that have been released, also voluminous, are simply from the Epstein estate. There's a lot of material that the Justice Department has, and we'll see. Also, unclear to me whether it's been redacted already, because if it hasn't already been fully redacted, this could be a long time, even if the president signs it into law. And again, it's not a foregone conclusion the Senate will take it up or break a filibuster. It's not a foregone conclusion that the president will sign it. But even if all those things happen, and even if they happen in short order, it could be a long time before we see the documents if the redactions haven't taken place. All right. Today, the president has two events, 2:00. He meets with the White House task force on the World Cup. That's pool press, so we could see questions, and they may not all be about overtime and penalty kicks. And then 6:00, he's speaking at the summit McDonald's is having in D.C. It doesn't say where that is, but in town travel pool. So presumably he's going to like some convention center or something. Don't know what the Veep is doing today. Senate is out. The House is meeting for legislative business. Rules Committee is doing some stuff on petroleum, on the National Petroleum Reserve. And the conference and caucus leaderships are meeting separately this evening. Week ahead, tomorrow, of course, the president's hosting MBS in Washington and a big dinner and big meeting and meetings on the Hill. Tuesday is the vote on the Epstein files. Wednesday, the Saudis are hosting a big investment conference at the Kennedy Center. So he'll be here. MBS will be here for at least 3 days. And then amongst Jimmy Kimmel's guests this week, the great Adam Sandler and
He is great.
He is great. And Eric Swalwell, who maybe will announce his campaign for governor right on Kimmel, and that which is in California, of course. And then Stephen Colbert's guests include, get this, ladies and gentlemen, this is like a murderer's row. Julia Roberts, America's sweetheart. Ted Danson, brilliant on Curb and Cheers and a bunch of stuff. Benedict Cumberbatch, most successful albino in the history of acting. And then Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
By the way, Mark, with the World Cup, it's been a little under the radar, this idea of pulling the World Cup out of certain cities that the White House deems to be not safe. The FIFA announced that they would defer to the White House, to the host country. You think there's a chance that Chicago or somewhere loses the World Cup coming out of today?
There is a chance.
Just for the record, for anyone from the FIFA, Mr. Giuliani and others, just remember Gillette Stadium is in Foxborough, not Boston. So
look at that.
You do not screw with just because the mayor there is not doing her job.
Foxborough is not a sanctuary city, as far as I know. Maybe it is.
It's not. No, I just want to be clear that no.
Do you know that it's not? Do you know that Foxborough is not a sanctuary city?
Well, I will say the little I know of Foxborough politics, I don't know that it's that big of a deal. Like I don't know that it's that. I'm not sure that you've got a ton of sanctuary.
Yeah, understood. Understood.
City.
Anyway, last night the president didn't talk on Air Force One on the flight back from Florida, but he did talk on the tarmac, and he talked a lot. In fact, you could almost imagine that the president was just trying to basically program the morning meeting because he talked about every topic under the sun. Let's listen to him talk here. We'll play him back to back. First about Epstein, and then about Marjorie Taylor Greene. 105 and 107, please, back to back.
He says he's concerned that the Epstein probe you are calling for could be a smokescreen to blocked to release some more files? Is that the case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration. So a guy like Massey, his poll numbers are showing he's at 6% approval rating right now. And we call him Rand Paul Jr. because he never votes for the Republican Party. So they're using Jeffrey Epstein as a deflection from the tremendous success that we're having as a party.
And her life could be at danger because of the rhetoric?
Her life is in danger? Who's that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene, she says.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't think her life is in danger. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares about her. Okay, what about you?
So both before and after the president's 180 on whether he supported the House vote, lots of back and forth on social media. He using Truth Social, she using X between the president and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I can't read you her entire series of tweets because they're too much. 108 A and B, will flash them up on the screen. For those of you listening to the program on a podcast, you're out of luck because I'm just not going to read these things. But basically, she's saying she's endangered. It's all the president's fault. She still thinks the president's awesome, but she's not a traitor, blah, 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 back and forth, back and forth. Sean, what, is it in the president's interest to keep going after Marjorie Taylor Greene now, or will he, you think, back down because, I mean, the vote's happening and he only elevates her?
Well, not just that, but I'm not a big fan of red on red. I don't like it. Number two is that when you have a 1 or 2 seat majority, creating enemies that you may need for a vote is not probably the most helpful thing. So I'm not sure that it's helpful in the long run. I get he's not pleased with her position on this. But I will say that I had Marjorie on the show on Wednesday of last week, and she comes at this from a place of concern for women, and she has very much been it's a longstanding thing that she has had. So this is not, there's no one that's ever questioned her commitment and her loyalty to President Trump and the America First agenda. So I just have never been a big fan of red on red stuff. I get that they're pissed at her, but I wish that we didn't have to handle it like this out in the open.
Dan, some Democrats have been texting me, including some from the Hill, saying this is epic because it's really the first big fight between MAGA and the president that's been caused by Democrat leverage, and that this is the start of the great unraveling, as opposed to just a one-off, idiosyncratic thing because of Epstein and Greene. Which camp would you be in and why?
I mean, I think it's a one-off, but I said this to start the show. The last week has felt, for the first time since COVID in Trump's 10 years, where events are controlling him and he is not controlling events. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's assume this vote, it happens Tuesday and whatever, 100 some odd Republicans vote for it. She won. Like, he backed off. Now the question is, will he take her out in a primary? Because that has always been what makes him feared. Is over 10 years, his record in primaries is phenomenal. So I don't know if this is the beginning of kind of the party, not fearing him as much. We're going to get to some other topics where I think people are going to be in a bind and they're going to have to start choosing sides. But, she stood toe to toe with him and she won on this issue.
Can I just say this? This is why this is not only just a one-off, but it is unbelievably unique. The president and MAGA made this issue a big deal during the campaign. Talked
100%.
about the release. The DOJ, as we all saw, that group of influencers who came to the White House and they were talking about releasing the files, gave people binders. And then suddenly it was, the first 180 was, now we don't want to talk about it again. So if you are a MAGA person, if you are a supporter of Donald Trump, then you thought you were on the right side of this issue for the last 2 years, where you were saying, great, he wants transparency. It's all Democrats wrapped up in this. This is great for us. It wasn't until he, said, I don't want to talk about it anymore. But you can't get people, it's like firing up somebody and then saying, well, you got to calm down. Well, you're the one who fired him up. And now you guys want him to just calm down. So this is, to me, a very one-off issue because it was initiated and propelled by the MAGA base.
But here's where there is something for what Democrats, I agree with Sean. Trump made his own bed on this issue. But now I can look at another set of it, like healthcare, where Trump is saying we have to do something, his party doesn't. what you see in these instances is Democrats are united, Republicans are divided. And that is where, if they stick together, they have some leverage. They do, because you only have to break off a few people, and then you got a problem.
Let me ask one more Epstein question. And then we'll move to affordability and healthcare. So the Republicans are right that the Democrats' motives are at least suspect, because when they had control of the White House and Congress, they didn't do anything to try to bring this stuff out.
Yep.
So they claim this is all about the alleged victims and this is all about transparency, but there's obviously a political motive too on the part of all the Republicans, all the Democrats claiming to want this. And I think Trump thought if he waved the bloody shirt of Bill Clinton and Larry Summers, the Democrats might back down. Dan, it seems to me that Trump made a miscalculation here, not just about Marjorie Taylor Greene, but also about the Democrats. The Democrats in Congress don't care if Bill Clinton and Larry Summers go down, it would appear.
Sure. I mean, think of it this way. We talk about Trump's influence on the young voters with MAGA, right? And how influential they are, and how like this has kind of been a little bit of a bee in their bonnet. Most of those people weren't born when Bill Clinton was president. They don't care. It's a dog from 30 years ago. So I don't think the party cares. Of course, we're playing politics. We didn't care about this issue. It was J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, who for the last 4 years beat the hell out of this drum because we were the deep state, supposedly, and we were hiding a cabal of pedophiles. We all thought it was absurd. So now you get into office, and to Sean's point, you're like, nothing to see here. We're like, okay, we're going to have some fun with this.
Sean,
I will say, I just, beyond Bill Clinton and Larry Summers, I do wonder how many other people, especially big dollar donor types, CEO types, are on the, no, you, I mean, I'm not saying, but like this could, I think, have an interesting take, not just on we think about donors, market forces. I mean, there's a lot of ramifications that I think could come out of this thing.
There are a lot of people probably not sleeping well in my neighborhood on the Upper East Side right now.
Will the Democrats trust the redaction process? Will Marjorie Taylor Greene trust the redaction process?
No,
because conspiracy theories need oxygen. So they'll just say.
I also think, I mean, here's the deal. We saw this last week with that Drew Frey email. When enough people have seen it, whose name is being redacted or whatever it is, it will come out, and enough dots are able to connect where it's like, okay, that person, that's Professor Plum in the library.
But isn't it incredible that the people had seen Jeffrey Epstein's email saying Trump's a dog that didn't bark, and Trump knew about this stuff, and that never came out till just now? Isn't that suggest there might be explosive stuff that's never come out?
That's what I'm saying, though.
Even though the Justice Department saw it.
Well, although it's not just that, there's trials that Epstein went at, and you got to wonder why wouldn't he have leveraged some of that intel at that point?
Yeah. All right. Over the weekend, some important journalism was done on the administration's search for general solutions on affordability, specifically on healthcare, and they're finding what the Biden folks did, which not easy even for a president to pull any levers to deal with inflation, even in the medium term, let alone in the short term. Over the weekend, the president, people talked about a lot on the Sunday shows. Here's Kevin Hassett this morning on Squawk Box talking about inflation and prices. 121, please.
The president is constantly saying prices have come down. Now, inflation is still 3%. It's still too high. Now, oil prices, energy prices, there are certain things where they have come down, but when you keep saying prices are falling, that's not true, because inflation is still, the 3% is on top of all the inflation we had during the Biden years. So we got all that inflation plus an additional 3%, and we should, I think you should admit that.
A more precise way to say it, though, Joe, is that purchasing power has gone up. And so real wages, that's W divided by P for our technical people in the audience, have gone up by about $1,200 this year. So the way to think about it is that we've dug a $3,000 hole because of Biden policies, and we've gained $1,200 on the way out already, which should give you a great deal of hope for the future that the wage increases that we're seeing will continue. And even if inflation stays positive, make it so that people feel way better when they go to the grocery store and to buy a car.
All right. Last night, the president talked about Thanksgiving, and it was less in the mode of, I feel your pain, we're here to help, and more in the mode of, happy days are here again.
go to Walmart and other companies, and in every case, it's about 25%. That a meal, a Thanksgiving meal and surroundings are 25% lower than it was under the Biden administration. That's a big fact, and that comes from Walmart and others that do that. Okay? Any questions?
All right. Now, we're going to play a very long soundbite from the president talking about healthcare. It's long, but it's instructive to see where his mindset is. A note in particular, he acknowledges that when he threw off the idea of paying people directly rather than paying insurance companies to support their premium payments and their healthcare payments, that he acknowledged that he did it cavalierly.
Are you negotiating with lawmakers on health care ahead of a vote next month?
We're negotiating with lawmakers, and I've had personal talks with some Democrats. I can't tell you who they are. I just don't want to do that. It's not fair to them. About paying large amounts of dollars back to the people. You know, this was my idea. It came up during that. You know, oftentimes in under times of stress, like the shutdown, you come up with great ideas that you wouldn't have thought of before. The insurance companies are making a fortune. Their stock is up over 1,000% over a short period of time. They are taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're not really putting it back, certainly not like they should. So when I see this, and when I've seen this over the last pretty short period of time, I said, why do we just pay this money directly to the people of our country and let them buy their own health insurance? And you know, I made that statement, and I made it a little bit cavalierly, but it sounded good. And everybody has picked it up, including Democrats. And I am talking to some Democrats right now about doing that. People love it. We're going to take the money. Well, if it gets approved, we're going to take the money. We're going to pay it back to the people of our country to go out and buy health insurance. Now, they can put it in a health account. We can do it a lot of different ways. But they buy their own health insurance. They can negotiate price. And it's going to be locked so they can't go out and buy a Cadillac. They can go out and buy health insurance.
So we talked about this extensively last week, the administration's search for solutions on affordability, generally on healthcare specifically. We'll keep talking about it because up through the State of the Union early next year, this is a big focus of the White House, a big focus of congressional Republicans. They know what the data says regarding public opinion. Sean, where are we headed? What are the solutions we'll see? We saw the tariffs coming off on some agricultural products, but where are we headed? What are the big building blocks of the State of the Union affordability platform going to be?
Well, I think that you're going to have everything. There'll be healthcare, there'll be home ownership, there'll be something on home ownership, whether it's interest rates or the Pulte 50-year deal. I mean, some version of that. There's going to be a lot of things where the president's just walking through different aspects of life, probably education costs as well. On healthcare, again, I think that's almost like a second bucket. There is an affordability piece to that. They'll definitely talk about prescription drugs and how they're taking them down through the Trump RX plan. But I do think healthcare is its own separate animal. Yes, it's about cost, but there's so many other issues in that will probably get its own little 2-pager of action. And I think if you think about what we talked about last week, this is where it's going. The ball is bouncing towards expanded medical savings accounts where there'll be greater probably deductibility and expansion of it, where there'll be more rollover in them. The idea, to be able to go in and say, I can do this, I can buy this, but now I get to negotiate the cost of it. Whether or not again, part of it that I want to be clear on is that's where I think there's the greatest amount of consensus between Barrasso, the whip, who's also a doctor, Cassidy, Trump, a lot of the other players in this, even Oz talking about it a little over the weekend. But you're starting to see a broad consensus. That's the one place where Republicans can agree on. And I think you could get some Democrats on board as well.
Dan, what's your party's affordability agenda?
I mean, right now it's extend the ACA credits. I mean, just stay focused on the here and now, right? That is an opportunity to make a difference in the real lives of real people. What the health savings accounts are a joke. Who are you negotiating with?
Oh, I don't.
5 million people negotiating with health insurers.
No. But I think the difference is the difference is that when you have a health savings account and you are approaching a doctor, and I mean, I've literally done this myself, and you walk in, not with an account, but with my own, when I walked in, I said, hey, look, this is what I can afford. You think about a lot of what you deal with in healthcare, and I'm not talking about going in to see your primary care physician, but when you go in to see where a lot of stuff in the in sort of the whole dental area, some of these guys who don't take insurance, and you can negotiate with them. You go, I get it. That's this. I have an account that has this much in it. What can you work with me on? So I think part of this is to allow people who, as more and more of the healthcare industry gets outside of taking insurance, you can go in if you had an expanded health savings account. And as I said, Dan, I'm not saying this is the silver bullet. I'm just trying to say, I think policy-wise, this is where you're seeing consensus among Republicans because everything else is a lot more complicated.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the beauty of Trump is he talks out loud. So he's looking for headlines. He's looking for something that sounds good to get him out of the vice, right? And I think the problem is on healthcare, you actually put that before the American people. It is a complete disaster. So now they don't have health insurance. They have a few dollars in their pocket to go get to negotiate, go find a dentist. We hear people say, I can't find a doctor. I can't. So now you're going to try to find someone, negotiate individually with that person. Meanwhile, the money that was going to buy you health insurance for catastrophic coverage and things like that is gone now because that's what you're doing. You're taking the money away. You're putting it into this health savings account.
Why can't it be an add-on? That's what I'm. I think...
Okay. So now you're going to extend the ACA credit. Or you're not because they can't afford the insurance. So the beauty of this is it's a joke. So you can try it. To me, all of this is like, it goes back to the first term, Sean, infrastructure week. I mean, the great Lloyd Blankfein, how's it going? Like Trump doesn't want to talk about this. So he's still defiant on TV ads. I think the DCCC is just keeping him on a loop right now. He just keeps telling people it's all fake.
Every week will be health reform week.
Yeah, or affordability.
All right, a few more topics into your questions. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be in on the conversation. What's going on with Venezuela is just classic Trump. Massive military buildup, huge show of force in the region, clearly directed as Venezuela. And yet the president says maybe it's time to talk. 112, Wall Street Journal headline. Here it is. Trump says U.S. may hold talks with Venezuela's Maduro. The president's comment came as the USS Gerald Ford arrives in the Caribbean. That's the largest ship we got. And here is the president last night opening the door to talks on the tarmac in Palm Beach. 114, please.
The designation of that cartel associated with Maduro, does that mean that the U.S. government can target Maduro's assets or infrastructure inside Venezuela?
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
Mr. President, Representative Matt.
And the U.S. is designating a Venezuelan cartel as a terrorist group. Sean, is this headed towards some sort of compromise or towards conflict?
So again, part of the dirty little secret that we talk about this sometimes, doesn't make the news, is that look who backs Maduro, right? Russia, China. So you've got to be very careful how far you go on this and suddenly find yourself in a land war in Asia, as they say in Monty Python, or Princess Bride rather. I just think that there's a little bit they've gone as far as they want to go probably, and now want to have a discussion about what we could do to solve it. I have a feeling that they've ramped all this up, put all the assets off the coast, made it very clear we can come in, but let's talk and have a conversation. I just don't understand what it is, because seemingly it's regime change, and I don't think Maduro's will make any deal that would undermine that. That's
what's confusing to me. Dan, do you think this is headed towards conciliation or conflict?
I think they wanted it to be conflict. They wanted it to be his Grenada. I think they wanted to have a massive flex of force to kind of show the world that we can do this. But the world has changed. Think about everything we're talking about right now. Think about how people in MAGA are talking about why are we spending so much money and time on overseas, we're focusing on overseas. you're now potentially starting a regime change war in South America. I think now the timing is terrible for them. And I think they are looking for either an off-ramp or a delay to try to get things back into a place. I think Trump really wants to show a massive flex of force.
Yeah.
He wants to take all his toys and show them off.
Let's do these next three topics in one sentence each, just to speed through to make sure we leave enough time. And again, folks, if you got questions or comments, please raise your hand. MBS, Sean, what's the ideal White House comms shop's headline at the end of the visit? What's the ideal headline for MBS visit?
Saudi makes massive U.S. investment, shows signs towards joining Abraham Accords.
Dan?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. President was, even as there have been some more disclosures about Mr. Mamdani, his mayor-elect, and his policies and his associations, the president last night on the tarmac, very conciliatory about the prospect of a meeting with the mayor-elect. Here he is, 116, please.
The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us and we'll work something out. But he would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out. We want to see everything work out well for New York.
Dan, is this headed towards conflict or conciliation?
I think they will meet, but in the long run, they'll be both. I think they'll work together where they can because it's in both their interest, and they'll have conflict where they can because it's in both their interest.
Sean, the conventional wisdom leading up to the election was the Republicans were going to make him, the Mamdani, the face of the Democratic Party, and demonize him and put him in all the ads and demand every House candidate. I'm asking this honestly, not rhetorically, doesn't it take the edge off of that effort if the president's like doing a friendly photo op with him?
Yeah, I mean, but I think the president actually cares about New York because it's that's his first home, which is challenging. You're right. And I think how that meeting goes, I think the other big X factor is, does Mamdani want this? Like, I get the sense he likes this conflict. And if Mamdani plays this, like, Zelensky first meeting, the equivalent of not wearing a suit, but he walks in and is smug and whatever, then this thing is going off the rails real quick. There's a great story in Politico today about, I didn't even realize this. It makes sense, but the mayor of New York needs a TS, probably even higher, a TSSCI. Number one, with his background and travels and associations, I know that people were trying to play politics in this, or the Politico came at it from a political standpoint. But I actually have a hard time thinking that this guy's going to get would qualify for a TSSCI.
Yeah, he might need some references.
I think he'll be incredibly gracious to Trump. I think he wants federal funding. I think he's going to want to keep. Look, he's still the mayor.
Won't his base be furious though?
No, as long as he keeps pushing on the policies that he wants, we need federal funding. He knows it.
All right, quick, just a one-word answer on this one. Indiana Republican leadership basically said, no, we're not going to redistrict and get you more seats, and the White House doesn't seem to be giving up. Sean, will Indiana redistrict, yes or no?
No.
Dan?
No.
Okay. The president talked about no. Who's your stubborn? The president talked on the tarmac about both Tucker and about Fuentes. Let's play those back to back, please.
Tucker Carlson, what role do you think Tucker Carlson should play in the Republican Party, the conservative movement going forward?
Well, I found him to be good. I mean, he said good things about me over the years. I think he's good. We've had some good interviews. I did an interview with him. We had 300 million hits. You know that. Look, I can't tell him. Will you let me finish my statement? You are the worst. You're with Bloomberg, right? You are the worst. I don't know why they even have you. We've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out. Let him, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide.
Tell us, I did it with Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago a few years ago. What role should he play in the conservative movement?
Well, I didn't know he was coming, and he was with, as you know, somebody, Kanye. And Kanye asked if he could have dinner, and he brought Nick. I didn't know Nick at the time. And He did.
AKA
He came
Mr.
along with a
Fuentes.
few other people. He brought a few people with him. Meeting people, talking to people, like for somebody like Tucker, that's what they do. You know, people are controversial. Some are, some aren't. I'm not controversial, so I like it that way.
Dan, what's the next beat in this story?
Well, and there's two. There's the how does this affect Trump? But the real issue now is JD Vance, because that's the future. And Trump, in his own kind of clumsy, awkward way, can dog whistle with the best of them. But can JD Vance dog whistle? And what I mean by that is, can you flirt with the white nationalists and the Nick Fuentes crowd to keep them in your camp? Trump's always been able to do this, even though he just kind of does it out loud in front of everybody. Look, if I'm a reporter, I would go up now and ask JD Vance, who's had a lot to say about Nick Fuentes. Do you agree with Donald Trump? Do you agree that, you know, it's good to talk to all these different people? It's good to have these dialogues. Fuentes has talked about Usha Vance in not very nice terms. This is going to be really fascinating. And then we're going to get to Ted Cruz coming up here.
Yeah,
there are going to be others who are going to take the other side of this.
Yeah, Sean, what's the next beat in this story?
I think the next beat depends. I mean, I feel like the story has been waning. And so unless something keeps it alive, whether to Dan's point, if somebody goes up and makes a big deal with Vance about this, then maybe. But like I just don't see. I think it mattered to some people, clearly, when Tucker did the interview. I just don't see, it hasn't sustained itself as a problem within the movement. So I've not really. I think for some people this was huge, not so much for everyone else.
Right.
But
All
Sean,
right,
don't you? I mean, I respectfully kind of disagree. Isn't that why Trump finally had to talk? Because it's not going away. I mean, it's not. It's not. This is swirling still within the MAGA movement.
But as I've said before, there's a difference between things that you proactively bring up and stuff that you respond to. And Trump was responding there. And to your point, he wanted to punt on it, but like he wasn't bringing that up.
I mean, he didn't punt. He answered it.
People say to me all the time, Tucker's on the outs. Tucker's not welcome at the White House. Tucker's not in good standing. And I tell them, no, that's just not true. And you saw it there. Leaving Fuentes aside, leaving Vance aside, the president was very warm towards Tucker. And that's not, it shouldn't surprise people. And all of you who keep telling me Tucker's on the outs, Tucker's lost his influence. There are a lot of people who are very mad at Tucker. Tucker's burned a lot of bridges with a lot of people, but not with that guy.
Well, and remember, that goes back to something that I sort of, when people say fill in the blank is not whatever, there's a difference between some of the senior White House staff and the president himself. And at the end of the day, there is a difference there, and that matters. Who actually you're in good with. And I'd always rather be in good with the boss.
Yeah. And not just the boss, but his number two. Tucker's son works for the vice president and was attacked over the weekend. And the vice president was very aggressive in defending Tucker's son, who's very popular in that office. He's very well liked. And so those two guys seem fine with Tucker currently, even though, again, many people are not, including Ted Cruz. Last two topics, and then to your questions, please raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation. If you've never raised your hand today, it'd be a good day to do it. Ted Cruz, Axios correctly points out Ted Cruz has taken positions on a number of things. First Amendment issues related to the FCC, on Tucker, and several other things.
Israel
that Axios says is setting the stage for 2028. I don't agree that he's going to run against. The article kind of suggests he'll run against the vice president. I don't believe he will. That's my current sense of things. Dan, if Ted Cruz did run, what would a strategy be to take the nomination away from JD Vance?
Well, it's all the things that we just talked about. And I go back to, if Donald Trump is at 95% with Republicans, then there's nothing to talk about. If there is a slow splintering and there's a little bit of a crack, I think he tries to get to his right on some issues, and he tries to say he's too far right on other issues. We just talked about Israel. We talked about speech. If Vance is tied to Trump, it's going to be a problem.
Sean, that might work with some donors, but does that work with voters in the Republican nomination process?
No, I mean, I think the only strategy that for a Ted Cruz is to basically be that like NASCAR number 2 car, where you're just drafting behind the number 1 car and hoping that something happens to the number 1 car. Exactly. And you're set. I mean, like I don't think that respectfully, it's not a real challenge. If the numbers are as Dan laid them out, where Trump is still plus 90% with the Republican base, then it is JD's 100% of the time. And the only issue is that if Trump were to turn on him, if JD decided for whatever personal reasons he didn't want to seek it, then Cruz, Ted would be there in the wings waiting. But yeah, and I apologize for everyone if that NASCAR analogy was horrible.
That's a great one.
No, no, well, no, I can't tell if I don't watch NASCAR. I just guess.
Don't read the chat. All right. Lastly, Politico yesterday, big story about Gavin Newsom being the front runner. So they caught up to this program a couple weeks late. That's fine. And it's a really interesting interview that Gavin Newsom did with Jonathan Martin of Politico. If you haven't read it, you're interested in 2028, read it. I thought the article was right on point in several things, including Newsom's desire to suck up to the establishment press, which George Bush did in 2000 very effectively. It helps you win the nomination, even of the Republican Party, but certainly the Democratic Party, even now, with all the hostility to suck up to the establishment press. And Gavin Newsom displayed his wares on that. But it kind of gave short shrift, I thought, to some super important things that will be both positive and negative for a potential Newsom campaign. So, guys, I'm going to ask you to start the week the same question I was asking last week. Is anybody going to try to slow this down? Or are people just going to hope that he comes down by his own weight, or that there's time to bring him back to earth later? Will anyone make a move against this guy in the foreseeable future to keep him from consolidating what is now, I believe, a very, very big edge? Doesn't mean he'll be the nominee, but he's got a very big edge, and no one's trying to slow him down that I see. Dan?
I don't think anyone will right now. I think that story ended with a little bit of an Achilles, which is that he doesn't really kind of potentially know who he really is, and which is something that we've always talked about. And I think the reason you don't panic yet, if you're another 2028er, is he is not pulling away in the polls. Kamala Harris still leads him or is right next to him in most things, right? He's hovering around 21%, which is better than the 7% that he was at. If he gets to 35% over the next 6 months, or you start seeing that movement, then you have a problem. But I think right now, he's winning over the punditry. He's won over X. He's won over the consultant class. If I start seeing Nevada, South Carolina, states where he leads, Michigan, but right now you don't see it anywhere. You just don't.
Yeah, there's two things here. One is it is early, so you always have to wonder if you're someone on the outside, does he peak too early? Number two is that it comes back to so who, yep. Right? I look at like Booker or Whitmer. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? Go out? I mean, the reason that Newsom has been successful is because he has engaged, and he has engaged on social media and random platforms, and he said stuff in an engaging way. He's taken on Trump, and it's been cute and effective. I mean, like, he's gotten the attention. The point of all this is to say that there's nobody else except for a guy like Ro Khanna who's actually willing to mix it up. I mean, right? And so you've got Rahm, I think, who will go like, hey, I'll just raise a boatload of money and then we'll drop a bunch of oppo on the guy. Like, you have to have a tactic. And so right now, throwing a random punch is not a smart move.
Well, and in the last 50 years, has any Democrat in an open primary gone wire to wire? Never. So everyone's looking at Hillary in 08.
Mondale
was 84. Wow, he was coming off. Okay, fine. So 40 years ago. So I said 50. I should have said 40. The history of our party, we are not like George W. Bush, where everyone's like, let's get on the battleship and ride. We tend to look for other people. We look for underdogs. We look for who'd
you think the Democratic frontrunner was at the start of 2004, Dan?
Hillary Clinton.
Well, no, but of candidates who entered the race,
nobody knew. They were the seven doors, as everyone called them. I mean, look, I was intimately involved in that. We all thought Kerry was serious, but everybody was worried about Massachusetts and that he didn't really know what he stood for.
But he kind of was wire to wire. I'm just quibbling with you.
No, Howard Dean, absolutely. That fall was seen as worked up. Kerry almost collapsed. Kerry almost collapsed.
When I say wire to wire, I just meant the same person who was the front runner ends up winning the nomination. Nobody has no near death experiences. Even George Bush did in 2000.
Yeah, but George Bush had like a 2-week gap between North Carolina and South Carolina. Kerry had like a 5-6 months where he almost went bankrupt.
But it's the same phenomena. It's the same phenomena. Nobody has no bumpy moments.
Yeah, Kerry did not go. I mean,
my point is he was to the extent there was a front runner, he was the front runner, and then he ended up with the nomination. All right, quick word from a sponsor, and then your questions. Thank you for your patience. Maybe you've worked out a little hard over the weekend, like some of us, and have an injury, and you need some relief. Well, the products from CB Distillery can help you there. They can also help you get a good night's sleep. 25% discount on CB Distillery products right now. Go to cbdistillery.com, promo code 2WMM. High quality, clean ingredients, no fillers, premium CBD. Over 2 million people have used the products from CB Distillery. And so if you're ready for better sleep, less stress, and feeling good in your own skin again, or dealing with a nagging injury, go to cbdistillery.com, promo code 2WMM, 25% off your entire order, an opportunity to sleep better, feel better, and try something, again, that has worked for millions. If you've never tried it before, here's your chance, 25% off cbdistillery.com, promo code 2WMM, cbdistillery.com. Thank you for your attention to that matter.
Just one thing, because we forgot to I just want to flash it for people. Can we just show 119 really quick? Somebody leaked over the weekend that they did scores of the advertisements around the California proposition stuff, and that the ad that tested the absolute best was the AOC ad. You always ask yourself, who has the incentive to get this out there? Why would they be doing it? We always say that Newsom is top tier. I have kept saying AOC is in the top tier. Someone wanted to remind people, look who tested better in his own state.
I'm not sure it's true that it tested best. I'll say that.
But even if it's not, the idea that they're making it very clear.
That is like,
I agree. I agree.
Long way to go.
Didn't want to give him credit for something I don't think is necessarily true. Anyway, time for your questions. Raise your hand.
By the way, I actually think it's true.
There's two names that I always say in a certain way, based on drama. Stella. How do you guys say the name Stella? Like from Streetcar, he says Stella, right? You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
I have no idea.
And then Christopher. Because of Michael Imperiello, who lives in my neighborhood. I see him all the time. And even though all of you now think of him as White Lotus, he is from The Sopranos. So I say, long wind up to bring in Christopher. Come in. Thank you for being here. Thank you for wearing that hat. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Tell us where you are and what's on your mind, Christopher.
I'm in Bradenton, Florida, on the beautiful Sun Coast in Florida. The reason, what's on my mind first is, Sean, put your glasses on. I wanted to share a quick story of the material that's sitting behind me. It's about the 1948 World Series. I'll make this short. My father and mother went to most of the weekend games, took the bus up from Connecticut. When they got in the World Series, he couldn't get a ticket. He wrote Tom Yawkey, the owner at that time, a pretty nasty letter. And about 3 or 4 days later, the local AP reporter showed up at his workplace with tickets for the games. And I'm going to show you kind of quick what's going on here. And airline tickets for all the home games for the series.
Incredible.
I use that as anytime I find a young person, or actually any person who's tentative, he taught me the lesson: if you don't ask, the answer is always no. Brilliant. So I wanted to share that with Sean because, that for the reason I've wanted to for a while, but I've been nervous to call in. And so, Sean, this is for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I will similarly use that tactic with Mr. Henry now when I want to go to the next World Series. I will say to John Henry, there is a track record for an owner flying somebody up and giving them tickets.
You don't want tickets; you want his plane, is what you want.
And the funny thing is the airline tickets were cheaper than the ticket to the game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is interesting. Anyway, I guess my quick question or comment is, I voted for Trump 3 times. Actually, I voted against Hillary, and then I voted for Trump twice. And after he gets elected, Sometimes I get disappointed because he can't seem to. I think he focuses behind the scene, but he doesn't focus in public enough. And I guess I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Christopher, for all that. Sean.
Look, I mean, the funny part about this, I remember early on at a point where in the 2016, right after 2016, when the campaign in between some stuff, and we were going back and forth on something, and I was very adamant about one particular point, and he disagreed with me. And at the end of the whole thing, he was right. I mean, like it, and he said he kind of made a joke at one point, and I just said it was sort of one of those moments where you realize his instinct on a lot of issues is a lot better than a lot of the pundits and the pros. And so every time I second guess him, I realize his track record on understanding where the ball is going and what people think is probably a lot better than most of the pundits. And so you look at a guy like that and you go, yeah, you're the guy who everyone doubted in the primaries, in the general elections, and you've won every time. So as I said, I sort of have realized that sometimes the easy reflexive thing for a lot of people like me to do is say, gosh, why is he doing that? And then when you really look at it in the long term, you go, you know, he actually knows exactly what he's doing. And so I don't always agree with every tactic. But then again, at the end of the day, you look at the track record and you go, he's won and he's done it his way.
I think the challenge is this is a guy who wears a hat or likes a hat that says Trump was right about everything. And he just he cannot bring himself to focus on, let's say, affordability where he is struggling. So he just changes the subject. Now, to Sean's point, it might be a good tactic in the long run if a year and a half from now the economy turns around and he can just kind of say, see, I told you, just you had to give me a lot more time. The problem is people don't like leaders who keep telling them they're wrong. I mean, see Joe Biden. It just doesn't go over very well.
Christopher, do you have kids?
I do, 2 sons.
Okay. I was just going to ask if neither one of them wants the stuff behind you. I'll send you an address. You just make sure that.
Actually, you know, this is actually copies of all the stuff. The guy that did this for me, and all the originals are hermetically sealed, and stored away somewhere. So that's how important it is to me.
Christopher, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing the sock stuff. And
thanks. I'm glad I got on this time.
Thank you for being part of Two-Way. Grateful to you. All right, sir, unmute if you would. Is your name correctly pronounced Arjun? Arjun?
Arjun's good. Yeah.
Arjun. Welcome in, Arjun. Thank you for being here. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Dan and for Sean.
I'm calling in from Ottawa, Canada.
Welcome in, sir.
And I'd like to start by saying that your president has really thrown a wrench into our politics. And we've got sort of a situation here that, I mean, I don't personally like it, but I mean, it is what it is. My question is really about these files that we're talking about. There's this vote tomorrow. If you had asked me a couple months ago what I think about whether these files should be released, I would say, yeah, you got to release them. But especially seeing how Kash Patel has changed since before the election and now after in this position, it worries me that there's something like particularly explosive in these files that could really disrupt American, but also more than American politics. Like we know at least that one more country is involved, right? Like Great Britain. So I know that my president has been seen with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like during the election, pictures were floating around. So at least 2 other countries are involved. And so my question is like, how exactly does the government plan to keep the extremes at bay, like the Fuentes types and the AOC types?
Great.
How do you keep those people?
Great question, Dan. How do we keep this from causing explosions that could have unintended consequences?
You raise a great point. I had not thought about that. Obviously, Prince Andrew, there's been a lot of stuff in the news about all of his involvement, but in terms of business leaders in other countries, government figures, I'm not sure how you can contain that. And I'm not sure how you can contain the internet and social media, because particularly it is likely, as we said earlier, there will be redactions that is going to spin people off, as Sean was alluding to. People will try to connect dots, what's public, who's been rumored, depending on the level of detail around the name that's redacted. So unfortunately, this is one of those things where people are going to have to use their own judgment and try to rely on what's fact and what's speculation. But I don't see how any country or person can contain this.
Sean?
Yeah, look, I'm going to tell you, we're pulling the pin out of the grenade, and I totally agree with you. This is what I was asking earlier. You're suddenly going to have people, politicians, athletes, celebrities, financiers, mega donors, I think you're bringing up a really interesting point, and it'll be interesting. I was going to say funny, but I'm not sure it's funny. I think it's going to be pretty sad. That being said, I just want to be clear. I do think that, people are going to have a lot of explaining to do. And this is interesting. I saw this interview with Katie Couric with Andy Cohen. And she was trying to explain how she didn't recognize that all of the girls, when she went over to Epstein's, were 14 years old. And she said, I should have done more due diligence. It's kind of pathetic the way they're letting her off the hook. But there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of explaining to do, probably in the next, 7 to 10 days. And to Mark's point, I do think when you're talking about that level of volume of documents and emails, and there's going to be stuff out there that nobody fully appreciated until it gets out, and who starts to go through it. The one other thing, and I'll give Jessica Reed Krause some credit from House and Habit, getting these things released out of context is what the problem is that people are picking out one email and saying, oh, did you read this? And, there might have been a trail that goes back to explain a little, but the context is going to get missed because of the volume. And again, that's going to cause a lot of heartache to a lot of people.
Arjun, thank you very much. Great question. And there's plenty of people who associate with Jeffrey Epstein who had nothing to do with his crimes. Plenty. But their names may now come out, and they're going to have.
Can I ask you, what's funny, Mark, though? There's one question. I know we're tight on time. I was thinking about this in context, not just of a lot of what's coming out in Epstein isn't that you did something bad, but you didn't say something, right? And so the question becomes, I think what's going to be interesting, because it's sort of like there are bad people that we all know right now. Some people maybe do nefarious things or bad in business or are shady in some way. And so the question always becomes to me, is it your obligation, if you're a public figure, to call somebody out? Because there's going to be a lot of people, they're going to say, yeah, you never did anything, but you must have known. And that's where I think the interesting thing is going to play out in the next couple of weeks. There are going to be a lot of people that were said, but you're in the email. How did you not know this? How come you never said anything? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, and I can tell you there were a lot of people associated with him who did not know. A New York City police officer was shot this morning in Brownsville here in New York City. And here's the tweet from the mayor-elect. My thoughts are with the NYPD officer who was shot this morning in Brownsville, and I'm praying for his recovery. I'm grateful to law enforcement for their quick response, and I will continue to monitor the situation as it develops. Not everyone who's a skeptic of the mayor-elect would have expected such a quick and on-point response. So we'll continue to.
And by the way, he met with the NYPD commissioner this weekend, said he asked her to stay. She has not said anything yet.
I think he revealed he spoke to her this weekend. I don't know that the talk was actually this weekend, just to clarify.
Oh, I thought okay. All right. Good flag. That might be right.
That's okay. But I only raise it because I think he met with her, shortly, a little earlier. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Oh, well, Alan Dershowitz is going to join me for the whole show to break down. He was Jeffrey Epstein's attorney. What is out there? What do we need to know? What's the context? So if you care about this issue and what's about to happen tomorrow, tune in tonight at 6.
3 two-ways left today. 2 shows you're familiar with and 1 new one that I'm eager to tell you about. First at noon, Meghan McCain, Citizen McCain. My friend Bianca Golariga has a book. You shall talk to CNN anchor. I talk to Meghan about everything that's in the news. That's at noon Eastern. My guest at 6 o'clock on the 2-way tonight, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley, also was the head of the Social Security Administration. Super bright guy, and looking forward to having him on and taking your questions. And then a new program for those of you who can remain confused about what two-way is, we're not just about politics. We are going to have all manner of new shows here on different verticals. Ethan Suplee is a famous actor. If you Google, you'll see. You may not be familiar with his name, but you've seen him and stuff. And his new show is Lifelong. It's a program new for us. The premise is simple but very serious, which is Ethan believes health is not a finish line; it's an ongoing process. He's lost a ton of weight. He's really just gone full on the question of how you reset and calibrate and recommit to living a healthy life, whether it's nutrition or sleep or exercise. He's an extraordinary communicator. If you're interested in thinking about wellness in a whole new way, if you're interested in being involved in a community and a conversation like no other about how to not just follow rules, but to have the right mindset about all of this. No shortcuts, just honest conversation about what it takes to build a healthier life. Please join Ethan tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And his guest, I confess, I'm not familiar with Jacob Foods, but Jacob Foods knows a lot about all this. That'll be Ethan's guest tonight, talking about no BS food, about nutrition. Jacob Foods and Ethan Suplee. Join them tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern time, here on Two Way. And we'd love to hear what you think about the program after you watch it. And the three of us will be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Next week, no two ways for me. No morning meetings and no two-way tonight. So I'm warning you now. Don't email me Monday to ask where the show is. We'll be back the following week, but we'll be here all this week, the three of us. So please join us again tomorrow and all this week, 9 a.m. Eastern time, the morning meeting. Thank you all. I'll see you at 6. Have a good day.
Thanksgiving next week, people.
I know. Believe me, I know.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why. It's Thanksgiving. We're off for the holiday. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 9.